Welcome back to Wargroove, where we have finally reached the state of Heavensong, our destination of the last billion episodes. However, they're not going to help us against the undead, which was what we hoped. Instead, they're going to attack us, and the reason is they hate the Florin, and we've now got a Florin contingent in our refugee force, so we're just going to battle with these guys. Looks like they're some kind of Japanese-based faction, and we're going to have to fight an uphill battle to get into their territory. They start with a lot of the map under their control and a load of villages and a few units on the field, so they've got all the advantages starting off, but they don't have a hero, so that's one thing that will help us out going forwards. I'll skip over the first couple of turns, where I just sent things north to capture the various villages. And in the meantime, the enemy were building a load of units and starting to push them along the roads into our side of the map. Nuru is going to stand in this choke point and defend against the enemy's southern attack, first taking out those dogs in one hit. That's very nice. So we are going to be doing the old use the hero as a tank maneuver. Right now the danger level isn't too high, so I'm pretty confident about doing this. And indeed, she's a good tank. She can take a fair few hits and stop the enemy attacking our relatively undefended base area. The enemy have wasted loads of money building a ballista, and we don't have any flying units, so it really can't be put to much use. That's really helping in this southern area, since the enemy's strength is much lower than it could have been. So then, the vague strategy is to try and save Nuru by getting some units together now to go and take over that position from her, while the other units battle with various Misk in the north to keep control of the villages and try to get some economic power going for us. I'm going to use a bit of the old teleport beam to reinforce myself here, taking care actually not to reinforce in the choke point. I want the enemy to still be able to attack Nuru, so that they do, and it doesn't do very much. If they went and attacked those pikes instead, they might actually do substantial damage, and the pikes would be not very useful in the next turn. And as it happens, it does go according to my desires, looking good. We're starting to get attacked through the centre a little bit too much, since so many of my units are bogged down just defeating the odd sword unit off in the north. But that said, we do have a big advantage in the top left area of the map now, because I committed so much to going in that direction. So it's getting to the point where we can start rushing through the unguarded northern route through those walls and get into enemy territory to potentially wreak some havoc, as long as we can keep holding in the south just about. The south is probably the easiest place to hold, which is quite handy because our barracks is nearby, and with Nuru here of course you can act as a regenning tank to make sure the enemy's attacks are unlikely to break all the way through and start destroying our economy. Those pikes I summoned in come in quite useful, taking a blow instead of Nuru and perhaps dealing a little bit of damage back. But the southern areas become more dangerous now since the enemy moved up this trebuchet, and while we're nicely ensconced in a choke point, the trebuchet doesn't pay attention to that. So now, while we're unlikely to be attacked by a lot of melee stuff at once, we can be picked off by the powerful trebuchet's attacks. Annoyingly, my pikes are just about too weak. They can't break through the cav now, which would have given me the chance to send Nuru against the treb and weaken it. So Nuru's just going to run away and we'll have to take attacks from the treb. And indeed, they immediately wipe out a nearby unit of archers. Our economy isn't strong enough to really replace them at a particularly good rate, so that's really annoying. The situation's worsening. They've also sent a unit into our midriffs again, but I've got a couple of guys hanging around to sort that out. A breakthrough in the south appears to be on the horizon, but now we're going to be fighting right next to our own barracks, which will make it easier to hold off. And we're still doing well in the north. The enemy only built one sword unit to stop us, and that's not going to do very much. Our archers in this area finish off the remnants of the cav, and Nuru takes out the ballista, so the south's looking a bit better, but the north is where the real focus is. I've already attacked the barracks here once with my cav, and we're soon going to be in a position to finish it off. My alchemists can kill these swords in one hit, and now our cav will finish off the barracks. That will leave the sword unit on my side to capture it, and with that we can start producing units somewhat close to the enemy's stronghold. There are no enemies between us and the stronghold, so this is a promising route of attack. All we need to do is not get Nuru killed, and we're going down that path right now. The enemy charge in with one of their giant units and do a whole load of damage right off the bat. I didn't really expect to take much more of a pounding this turn, but indeed the trebuchet and this archer unit can attack, and we very nearly die. We just about get away with it, which is exactly how I like to play things. And after all, at least the damage isn't being done to units that would actually die for taking that much damage. We still haven't lost anyone. Now though, we do need to try and save Nuru. First, this archer unit will advance forward a bit to fire at the enemy archers. While it's a equal unit conflict, our first strike advantage means we do a lot of damage to them, so those archers probably won't be much of a threat anymore. Now you might think I should fall back with Nuru and use a reinforce on the village to just get her back to high health, but instead I'm going to use a teleport beam. This will allow us to put a trebuchet down in critical attack range of the enemy's golem thing. Thus we can take it out this turn. That's the main offensive power of the enemy's current push taken away. Plus, only our archer unit is currently in range of the enemy treb for this turn. So we can just sit here, out of enemy range, and only take a light attack in the next turn, which Nuru will probably survive. That's the plan. Anyway, we're going to focus on our attack from the north now, because this is where progress in the mission could actually occur. The enemy are annoyed that we're getting close to their fortress, and it says something about them falling back. So it seemed like I was going to have a time limit. They may actually respond to me getting close to winning by going back to defend their base. However, in their turn, they are still going to be focusing on attacking us down in the south. Those dogs make short work of our archers, and then some swords break through to Nuru. She is able to survive though, just about. The +3 defense on the forest she's in probably helping out a bit there. Needs to not get attacked by anything else. Luckily she's just out of range of these half-dead archers who are just going to do nothing really, shooting at the doors of our village. And that's that for the enemy turn. You can see them though still pushing through, ready to go and attack the south even more. So the threats of them going back to defend the stronghold haven't come through. Now then, we do have a bit of a mess on our hands. We're going to have to pull off another bit of a rescue to make sure we don't lose the stage. The first thing we can do is spend most of our money to get Nuru back to full health, so now the risk is dramatically reduced. Then we just have to decide how to use our units to most effectively take out the long column of enemies in front of us. First I'll use the alchemists to attack the trebuchet, sorry, I've got a trebuchet. And doing this allows them to stand on the mountains adjacent to the trebuchet and get a critical attack, so that mostly kills the treb. These archers will get crit if they don't move before attacking, so I can only go for the trebuchet or the swords, and I'll go for the swords just because I can take them out this turn, and taking out the trebuchet doesn't matter so much at this point because it's already been weakened. So that's them gotten out of the way, also frees up another space for us to manoeuvre in, which is handy. Our own treb should either attack the dogs or the alchemists, and the alchemists are the more powerful unit, so we'll go for them even though they're further away, and bang, a nice one-hit kill. Now the enemy's attack is looking much weaker. With that, I'm actually not going to keep going after those enemy units, because if I do, the enemy's cav will be able to charge forwards and counter anything I push in. So I thought I'll just take the relatively weak attacks of the things at the front to avoid the strong counter-attack of the knights at the back. Meanwhile, my own knights, my yak cav, are going after the enemy stronghold now. We make our first attack, and it's a nice powerful one, taking off a good chunk of its health, and we don't even take that much damage in return. I believe buildings don't get weaker as their health goes down, by the way, so the return damage you take is just a static amount when you attack a village or a stronghold. Anyway, I skipped over all of the enemy's turn because it's of no consequence. They did continue attacking through the south, but with only a few weak units. They weren't able to kill Nuru, which is all that matters, and we still have our units attacking the enemy stronghold. The knights and the dog things do their part, then in come the alchemists to use a critical attack, and bang, the stronghold is taken down. Just like that, we have cheekily won the stage. A nice distractionary tactic, I think, or I guess the AI just not paying attention to the fact I was obviously going after their stronghold. So this hasn't really resolved the plot situation, because they're still not going to negotiate with us. They never trust Florence. They're just kind of fascist in the Heavensong kingdom, apparently. Mercia wonders if we're bad diplomats, and Emmerich unironically says no, it's probably something else that caused all this, as we stand over the bodies of all the guys we just killed. And that's the end of the mission, and we even got an S ranking. I guess it did feel like it went particularly fast, since we just rushed around the edge of the map and won at the first available opportunity, really. So with that, we're going to go into another mission that is basically the same thing. The misunderstanding continues, so we'll just battle more of Heavensong's armies. This time they have a hero on their side, this guy, General Ryota. He really hates the Florin, just like the other guys we saw, so he really doesn't want to deal with us. He does eventually recognise that we're actually from Cherrystone, and that maybe we're in alliance or something, or have cordial relations. But after he keeps going on about the Florin, Mercia's just like, well, let's just fight him anyway to stand up for Nuru, so we're just going after them for Nuru's sake, I suppose. The diplomacy's out the window and battle is on the horizon, and once again the enemy have most of the map under their control as the fight starts, so we're going to be at a bit of a disadvantage, especially when it comes to money. They'll be making loads. This time flying units are involved in the battle, and the enemy have their version of vampires, the aeronaut. I started off by just looking across the map and generally thinking that it's better to go to the left than up. Those are the two options, and you can see the centre is covered in choke points in the form of those bridges. But we want to fight in the area where we have more land on the map. So if we go north, we'll be stuck up against the edge of the map and have fewer options. So pretty much for that reason, we're going to go left and middle instead of up, and just see what happens, see if any opportunities arise. Skipping forward to the time when the two sides make contact now, let's get started. The enemy were also going for my left hand, the middle, with only a couple of units at the top. So that suited me. We're going to have to just clash right here and see what we can do. First we annihilate some of their archers with a cav charge, and then do tons of damage to these alchemists standing on the bridge with archers. So this southwest corner of our territory is now looking pretty good. In the middle, the enemy don't have any powerful units that can really attack us right now, but they are coming in with the aeronauts and cav, so that'll be something to focus on next turn. Since we're safe for this turn, we'll put Mercia right at the front just to take advantage of her damage dealing potential to weaken that ballista. We do have a flying unit on the field. We've got a witch that needs to come in and fight with the enemy aeronauts, so that is a helpful move to make. One of those aeronaut units pretty much takes out our knights in the south. I think aeronauts, or the flying type units, have a unit-to-unit advantage against cav, those things with the icons you can't discern. So that's why they did so much damage there. And Mercia does take a pounding, but it's only a pounding from minor units, so we get away with it quite safely. Our priority for the next turn then will be to try and take down the two flying units. We've got our witch out, as I said, the anti-air unit, but annoyingly we can't reach any of the enemies right now. We do also need to keep in mind that the ballista's still there with a bit of strength, so we need to try and not take too much anti-air damage from it. Right now we can use this alchemist instead to attack the aeronaut on the left. Alchemists are also an anti-air unit, they're just also anti-ground as well, their general purpose. So that's one taken down. As for the other one, we don't have many options right now, we'll just have to hope we can get it in a future turn. It's not even really the main concern in that area. That would be the cav standing on the bridge, that's the biggest damage dealer. But we've got some pikes standing nearby who can come in to do loads of damage to the cav, very juicy right there. Plus the pikes are now standing in the way and blocking the bridge, so that's our centre pretty much secured. Mercia takes out the ballista for us as well in that turn, and then takes the attack from the aeronauts, which isn't all that bad. These Shivas down in the south are clearing us up, but overall that bridge and general area is looking safe. These swords are going to kill themselves against Mercia, thank you very much. And you may also note that the enemy have one of those dragon units coming down the centre, and that's going to be the defining part of the next couple of turns, because the dragon unit is super powerful, it's good against everything, and it can also move really far, so it's hard for us to just avoid being attacked by it. Of course, trying to save Mercia most importantly from that. I noted, along similar lines, the enemy hero is just standing randomly in the bottom left corner of the map. So he is vulnerable to attack, not that we have anything to attack him with, but worth keeping in mind. I use my witches to take out the aeronauts near Mercia. As for a lot of the other units, we can't really get out of the enemy's attack range because of the dragon, so I thought we might as well just go on the offensive and do as much damage as we can, with the exception of that one arch unit standing on the road off to the right of Mercia, because if they get out of the way, Mercia will be able to run just about out of range of the dragon and will be safe for this turn. I considered using the healing aura here because she is low on health, but I'm going to save it for a chance when it will heal someone else as well. So that's that. And then, as I said, with the other units in range, we might as well just do something since they're probably going to die in the near future anyway. I charged the dogs against the Treb. This wasn't particularly effective, it only did a little bit of damage, but the dogs are so cheap compared to the Treb, so if you count it in terms of the money being lost on both sides, then it might be an okay exchange. Anyway, the pikes are going to charge forward and do a not particularly helpful attack against those archers. The best part of this move is the fact that it still blocks the bridge, so hopefully our area on our side of the bridge will be safer next turn for it. Along similar lines again, the enemy hero could be blocked from crossing the bridge he's standing on by using this basically dead knight. I'll just sacrifice it since it's dead anyway, but I'm not going to, because if he does cross the bridge, that's kind of good for us. We want him to be more in our zone of control so that we have chances to kill him. The enemy dragon is unable to make an attack because it goes after Mercia and can't reach her, so that's the perfect setup actually. I thought it would just take out one of our units. I guess they're prioritizing trying to actually win, good AI. But the units that I did leave out there are now going to be attacked by all of the various enemies around them. So that's a shame, but again it did stop the enemy from advancing, so that's something. And also, as you can see, we end up with the bridge still blocked by my half-dead pike unit. Plus, Ryota does come across the bridge in the south, kicks a couple of our guys to death, but takes a crit in return, doesn't do that much damage. But yes, now he's kind of on our side of the river, and he's generally vulnerable, so we've got a potential offensive strategy there. We've also got the witch in range to attack the dragon. I was noting there that the critical condition for witches is that there isn't an enemy witch next to the thing you're attacking, at least I think that's what it was. And that means they pretty much always crit, so that's handy enough. So we do loads of damage with that attack. Some archers move in to finish the job. The dragon is down, that's a load of enemy money destroyed, and the immediate threat gone. You can see I've repositioned most of my units this turn because we're going to start going exclusively down and left. We are going to go after the hero now, since it would take so much longer to try and push through the centre, even though I think that would also be possible. Pretty much the only thing that happened in the enemy turn is they moved their hero back across the bridge, and we can't be having that for our plan to work. So as we saw there, I decided to move a damaged alchemist unit to just stand next to him as bait really. Everything else is moving ready to attack if he's still there next turn, and the alchemists provide such a juicy target that instead of continuing to run away and go somewhere more safe on the map, he kicks them to death, and now he's going to be standing there in attack range of a few of our units, so that's what we like to see. We have seen before, the AI does try to run away with its hero when it's in danger, so some sort of entrapment is necessary, and now it can't really get away, especially because with flying units, you have a particular advantage against heroes. Most heroes, or all of them, I presume, can't attack flying units. So you can just harass them, just follow them around the map, constantly chipping away at their health, and get a kill eventually if the hero is alone and not supported. In this case, after damaging him with some harpies, we hit him with archers to chip away a bit more health. Other units aren't really in position to attack. It would be great if Mercia could attack, that would probably take off most of his health right now. But we can attack with knights who are also very offensively strong, and that does a massive block of damage, so now he's under half health, and his return blow isn't all that bad, so we can hit him again next turn and still do loads of damage. In the enemy turn, Mercia has a few trouble with Shebas coming down from the north, but it's not enough to kill her, or even with this ballista adding its not particularly effective attack into the mix. And now Ryota uses his groove. Luckily it turns out to not be all that much. I think what it does, after seeing him use it in arcade mode somewhere, is it attacks a unit next to you by going through it, and then if there's another target that's adjacent to your new position, it attacks through them as well and can keep going. So if your men were laid out in like a checkerboard formation, it would go through and attack them all anime style, but in this case it just did one regular attack, curiously against the flying unit, so I guess it doesn't follow the usual attacking rules. Anyway, he has actually ended up standing next to a mountain, so we can take advantage of the fact that our flying units get a crit over a mountain, even though it puts us in range of the enemy ballista, so if this fails, our harpies are doomed, but it's not going to fail basically. We have enough stuff that we can really pile it on Ryota this turn. Some archers do more damage, Mercia moves down into our cavalry block to use Healing Aura. Not only going to help herself out there, but it increases the attacking power of a couple of the cav units, so now we can send in some full strength cav to attack Ryota, and that's going to be the end of that. They can do enough damage to take off the rest of his health. Pretty cheeky win there, I think. mainly based on luck, you could say, because the enemy hero was just there for us to fight and we ended up ignoring what was going on the top half of the map as a result and just rushing a victory, but that's the name of this game, really. In terms of story, this victory again doesn't achieve all that much because he's just standing there saying he'll never submit to our invasion, and while we were just starting to explain we're actually not invading, we were just here to talk to the Empress of this nation, the Empress's kid shows up and pronounces his intention to fight us as well. So as you might guess, it's going towards another misunderstanding based battle. They are really drawing this out, but at least we got an S rank on this mission and did it very fast indeed. I think that went quite well, starting to get into the groove, if I may say, of playing this game. With that comment, I shall let myself out, but I hope you shall join me for the next part of Wargroove, where we'll be doing the final accidental battle against Heavensong, and then we can actually ally with them against various foes who are going to terrorize us as we start looping back around to complete our journey across the world.